Hello everyone, this is Crota, going to just give you some thoughts on the public test realm, the PTR 1.2.0 patch notes. If you guys have not heard or was not at BlizzCon or watching the feed, Blizzard had announced that they were going to set up a public test realm in order to test patches before they're released, similar to how World of Warcraft does it. In addition, this will also allow professional players to try to test a new patch, try to figure out any strategies as well before that patch officially goes live, say perhaps in the middle of a very large tournament like GSL. Now, I'm going to take a look at the balance patch and give you my thoughts. Some of the things I agree with, and then some of the other things I kind of scratch my head. So I'm just going to go down the list here and talk about each individual change and just give you my thoughts. My daughter is in the background. She's looking at me kind of surprised, kind of confused. If you hear any cooing, that's her. Now, there you go. Now, moving on to the balance notes. Protoss, hallucination research being decreased. I think this is one of those things where hallucination just simply wasn't being used as much as people would have liked to see. One of the things that I like about hallucination research being decreased is that I believe that massive colossi hallucinations break force fields as well. So in that Protoss versus Protoss early game, if a player tries to use a force field on their ramp, the other corresponding Protoss player can himself, hallucinate a colossi and then walk up that ramp, destroying those force fields for his party and then making their way through. Also, hallucination will allow for the Protoss player to get additional scouting early in the game with those hallucinated phoenixes. That build time from 1110 down to 80 doesn't sound like much, but when you couple in the fact that Protoss has Chrono Boost, this research can be completed about 55 game seconds, so that is really, really fast. Moving on to the Observer cost being decreased by 25 minerals and 25 gas. I think this is one of those things where the Observer was such a critical unit in the Protoss army that if you didn't go for that robotics facility and you didn't go for observers, you were pretty much playing in the dark for so long. The Observer is a key unit, and having the Observer costing 100 gas really limited the amount of other tech buildings and tech units that you could create. You couldn't get immortals that easily. You couldn't get void rays that easily. So I really agree with that. The Phoenix build time being decreased as well, and I think this is one of those things that needed to happen for Protoss in order to be able to counter mass Mutalisks early in the game. When you see that Spire go down, the Phoenixes are such a strong counter to those Mutalisks that but they were just a little bit difficult to mass up and create. The Phoenix, surprisingly enough, I believe does beat the Viking in terms of a 1v1 battle, but they really had limited uses, so I don't think it's going to change that much in the Terran versus Protoss matchup. We may see more Graviton Beam. The Phoenixes should have a little bit more energy. Phoenixes may be able to reach critical air mass and also be able to Graviton Beam SCB lines, so Phoenix Harassment, I believe, will come back out pretty effectively. The only problem with this is that Phoenixes, from going from 45 down to 35, Phoenixes should not be created from double Stargates any longer. Just because Phoenixes cost 100 gas, it is going to be difficult for a Protoss player to train up Phoenixes while chrono boosting, because they will be gas locked unless they have an expansion. Now, on to one of the changes that I'm really happy about, the Void Ray. The Void Ray was always designed as one of those units that is supposed to take down massive, slow-moving targets. Originally, they had Flux Veins in order to catch up to those slow-moving targets and take this down. But because of Flux Veins and that speed, Flux Veins, I didn't say anything else, Flux Veins and that speed, they were very, very easy to critical mass, and then their role was almost redefined as if I get enough Void Rays that are fully charged, I'm simply going to destroy everything ground and air. I don't care if you're armored, unarmored, massive, Void Rays were just that strong. Now that Void Rays will be able to deal 20% additional damage to massive targets, they're going to be effective against Thors, they are going to be effective against Ultralisks, especially since they're going to be able to attack, move, and keep up with an Ultralisk if they're on the ground. So great job here, Void Rays. Void Rays' role is definitely being more defined. Now, moving on to Terran. One of the things that, and the Terran Bunker, one of the things that Blizzard did way back in the beta is that they increased the build time on the bunker from 30 to 35 to kind of soften the damage and soften the effectiveness of Terran Reaper rushes with bunkers. Now that Reapers have been nerfed beyond belief, I think that this is actually one of the things that need to happen. If a build time decrease from 35 back down to 30. We'll see if this actually makes it out of the public test realm or if it's just going to sit there temporarily. Taking a look at the SCV auto repair, if you don't understand what this is really talking about, the repairing now assume the same threat priority as the unit they're repairing. Essentially, if a Thor is sitting next to a Hellion and the Thor needs repairing and the Hellion needs repairing, auto repair will repair the Thor first. Same thing with SCVs. If you have Hellions, Thors, and SCVs that all need to be repaired, those SCVs will repair the more critical units or the units with the higher threat to make sure that that battle is prolonged. This is a significant buff towards auto repair. We'll see how this translates and whether the high-level players will really be able to abuse it and use it. I also like the construction movement being made more consistent. SCVs currently were just wandering around inside their buildings a little bit, making it very difficult for the Terran player or the Zerg and Protoss player to figure out how to properly harass that SCV. We'll see how this gets changed. Now on to one of the changes that I'm not quite sure about. Infestor fungal growth no longer affects air units. This is one of those things where I thought fungal growth was just absolutely beautiful for countering mass mutalisks. And also revealing banshees as well. Revealing those cloaked air units. I'm not, perhaps... I'm just kind of feeling feeling uneasy about this. I'm afraid that Zerg versus Zerg will simply become a mass mutalisk versus mutalisk battle. Just because Hydralisk, no one really appreciates Hydralisk that much. Hydralisk could be used though, as Hydralisk do have a decent movement speed on creep, and then in a Zerg versus Zerg battle, you will most likely be fighting on creep most of the time. So we'll see how this really plays out. But that mutalisk, that harassment, the mutalisk versus mutalisk could change things up a lot. And in addition, Hydralisks are light units, so Banelings, a Muto Baneling may become part of the standard play. Muto Baneling Zergling against Muto Baneling Zergling, just because no one wants to invest in the Hydralisk being so weak against Banelings. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Let me know what you guys think of this patch. I will be trying to play on the public test realm just so I can see some of these strategies. I do know some high-level players, so perhaps they'll be able to send me some of their public test realm and replays as well to see where the strategies go. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.